Welcome one and all, Nyanko here, and today I am going to be talking about a game I recently just finished playing called Pokemon Violet. Now, if you don't know what the Pokemon series is, this is probably not the video for you. The newest installment in the Pokemon franchise takes place in the Paldea region, and it is so amazing. So I've been kind of a bit disillusioned with Pokemon the last few games. I think the last one I truly enjoyed, like wholeheartedly start to finish, was probably X and Y. I really enjoyed X. And then there was Sun and Moon, and I wasn't overly fussed on Sun and Moon. I don't know if it was just because they were trying to change it up and reimagine it for a new audience and I just didn't vibe with it, or if maybe it had been too hyped and then I was a bit disillusioned when I started to finally play it. Now, I probably will go back and play it again and just see if maybe with everything dying down, if I enjoy it more. But we'll see. But no, and then Sword and Shield came out, and I did enjoy some of the newer aspects of Sword and Shield. But what really got me was the fact that you paid about €60 for the game, and then they wanted you to pay another 30 on top of that for the DLC to like expand it and get the entire game experience. And I was like, that's a bit, no, I didn't like that. I wouldn't have mind paying maybe a tenner extra for the DLC because I'd already paid the 60 for the game, but another 30 on top of the 60 I'd already paid was €90 for a game to get the entire product. For me personally, was just a bit of a I've paid out for special editions in the past, as you've seen in some of my other videos, but I mean with those you get an art book, you get extras, and there's lots of extras, whereas when you're just paying 60 for a little chip to play the game and then they want you to pay 30 extra just to download more content, I was a bit like, no, I think I'm done with the Pokemon series now, I'm not going to play anymore. Which was sad for me because I've always enjoyed Pokemon. Ever since I played Crystal was my very first game, and I fell in love, and I loved the TV series, and I love all the movies, and I love Pokemon Go as well, but I was nearly done with the series, and I was like, no, they'd have to do something really special for me to get back into it. I liked the Pokemon Dungeon series as well. So those were a separate issue that I enjoyed playing separately outside of the Pokemon franchise. And then I kind of took that view with Arceus, which I'll make another video on in the future, so I'm not going to talk about Arceus in this one. But no, and then I heard about Pokemon Violet and Scarlet, or Scarlet and Violet, whichever way you want to put it. And I was like, I'm not sure about this. But then I realised, and I heard a lot, that they were implementing a lot of the new open world map from Arceus, and I was like, I could be interested. So yeah, I ended up getting it for Christmas because my family know me so well, and they were like, Pokemon games. They were like, Fire Emblem, Pokemon games, there you go, you're set. And I was like, thanks, I love you guys. But yeah, no, and I started playing it, and I have streamed a bit of it, but I wanted to do a playthrough just for myself to enjoy, so I did that, and I've just finished it there. I'm actually into the endgame series, and I have to admit, I was extremely surprised by how much I thoroughly enjoyed it. So if you haven't played Pokemon Scarlet or Violet, or you haven't really been interested in it because you've, like me, you kind of fell out of love with the franchise, it takes place in the Paldea region, which is set around like Spanish. It's kind of set in like a Spanish kind of region. So like how with Alola it was like based off Hawaii, and Sword and Shield was based off England, and Kalos was based off of France, and like how they've been doing recently with that, they've been picking different regions instead of having it all in Japan and Japanese regions. They've been like moving it around like bit by bit, and I've really enjoyed that in one sense, like them expanding on the world and them building up on the places and the regions. But no, I have to say Paldea was absolutely amazing. I loved it. I really enjoyed all three of the evolution starters. I could barely pick. I ended up going for Little Miss Green Kitty Cat. I can't pronounce her name. I think it's Sprigatito. I speak Spanish. I really liked her. Quaxly was super cute, and so was Fuecoco. And then each of their evolutions as they went through were really good. Instead of having like one, like it be like a war between 2 starters, I actually found it a war between all 3 starters. I just couldn't pick. I liked all of their final evolutions as well. The storylines, oh my god, okay, just to storylines, okay. So normally in Pokemon you have a linear story. You go through the gyms, meanwhile fighting the big bad of that region. So, you know, Team Rocket, Team Aqua, Team Magma, Team Galaxy, so on and so forth. And then you get to the end, you become the champion, you beat the big bad guys, and you take them down, and then it's basically just complete the Pokedex. And that's been like the copy and paste format for the past 20 years. And then Paldea is like, hold my beer. I am going to blow your socks off. And they gave us 3 storylines in one. And well, actually 4 storylines technically in one. It was so cool. So you have the usual go around the gyms, beat the Elite Four, become the next champion. Or become champion level in Paldea, because there's other champions who have won the league before. You've got, you know, the big bad of the series, Team Star, who you go through, you have to beat the individual leaders and try and overthrow Team Star completely. But as you do and you go through, you learn more about their stories and the reasons why they formed Team Star. And I really, really like how they go Hasta la Vista. Just because I like Spanish and I speak it and I love the country, so it was really nice to just see like little bits of like Spanish dropped in. And like Nimona, your like rival slash friend in this, is she like speaks little bits of Spanish as well, like buenas, and you know, I'm not putting it into perspective very well, but yeah, she has like little Spanish words and stuff that she throws out when you're talking to her, and you're just like so yeah, you do that route with Nimona and you go through all the gyms. There's the Titan path where you kind of help Arvin, who is the son of the Pokemon professor. So for me it was Professor Turo, because I played Violet, and you help him go around and collect the Herba Mysticas, and you learn his story, and I'm not going to spoil because it's really good. So and I think his was one of like the reasons why he was doing what he was doing was so sweet, and it was really sweet to just so sweet twice in one sentence. It was really amazing to like go through his journey with him and become friends with him. And then I went on a tangent. I was talking about Team Star, and then I got confused. Okay, and then you've got Team Star, and you go around and you get recruited by this mysterious person on your phone to go around and defeat the star bases, and then you learn more about why Star was built, as I said earlier. And their story actually, I think, was one of my favourites, because they weren't just villains for the sake of being villains. And they didn't really even have this big bad dream, you know, so like Team Rocket wants to steal all the world's Pokemon and rule the world. You've got Magma and Aqua who want to, you know, expand the sea or expand the land. Team Galaxy want to, you know, recreate the world in their own image, that kind of thing. I can't remember, what was that? Team Flare. But yeah, you know, there wasn't usually a super compelling reason. I mean, there was a few, but especially with like Team Yell in Sword and Shield, and their main thing was just to be a hindrance to you so that their favourite champion recommendation trainer would get through. Was a bit and again Team Skull was a bit of a meh, you know, or we're just, you know, grumpy that we couldn't pass the trials and stuff and get a Z-ring. You know, the last couple of generation of teams had been really I'm not really invested in you, you're kind of boring and you're kind of pointless. Whereas Team Star has a point. They're not actually that like menacing or anything like that, but it's just having gone through the Spanish school system, I could relate to a lot of the Team Star members who are like, yeah, we were ostracized, we were bullied, and you know, we want to stand up for ourselves. So I'm not going to go too much into it in case you haven't played, because I really think you should play it. It's the best Pokemon game that's come out in a long time. for like a main Pokemon franchise installment. So I'm not counting Arceus or, you know, Pokemon Dungeon series or anything like that. But yeah, so you go through all 3 routes, and this is how you have to go through all 3 routes, but you don't have to. Okay, if you want the main ending, you need to have gone through all 3 of the routes, and I'm a bit of a completionist, so I did. So you need to make friends with Nimona, you need to make friends with Arvin, and you need to make friends with the main Team School member. Not Team School member, the Team Star member. Oh, I'm getting all my Pokemons mixed up in my head. Because then they'll all join you for the final boss, and the main big bad in the series that you have to go together with to fight and to defeat so that you can save the Paldea region. And again, I'm not going to go too heavily into spoiler territory if you haven't finished the game or if you haven't played it at all yet. But do feel free to join me and play it on Twitch, and we'll go through it together. Saturdays I will be streaming Pokemon Violet on Twitch with you guys as I go through it again and like re-enjoy it and like re-experience things and possibly experience newer things that I didn't notice when I was going through the first time round. But yeah, actually that'll probably be tomorrow. Yeah, so join me tomorrow on Twitch to play some more Pokemon Violet. But no, okay, I went on a complete tangent there and I got totally sidetracked. What was I saying? Oh yes, best installment in a while. So you go through, and now I'm currently on the end game, like the post-game stuff. And you actually get a theme song at the end of the game. So if you finish it, turn your sound on your Switch if you've not been playing it with sound, and just listen to the song at the end. It's so good. I was like bopping along like, oh my god, they haven't actually ever had like a song before at the end of a Pokemon game. So yeah, now I'm in the post-credit game, and you go through and you have to rebeat all the gyms because you're testing them and making sure they still deserve their gym qualification, blah blah blah. And like, you know, you've got to go through and you've got to, you know, complete the Pokedex. And I think I haven't fully finished the end game yet, but they're talking about setting up like a tournament arc of like battling for who's the best champion and blah blah blah, who's the best, you know, Pokemon trainer. So that's going to be fun to do. There does seem to be more endgame stuff in it compared to other games, and I mean it's open world, so you can just run around, you can hit any gym first. So I think I ended up going to the normal gym first, and then I went to the bug gym by mistake in my solo playthrough. In my Twitch playthrough, I haven't even hit the school yet. But yeah, that was fun. The one downside I would say to it that I didn't like too much this time around is you weren't really able to change your outfit. So the story starts out that you're going to school, and it's a Pokemon school, and then you do this kind of trip and you kind of get left to do like your own research, and you have to find your treasure. So that's why you go through all the different paths and stuff. And yeah, like you have to stay in the school uniform the entire time. Like, so you can still change your hair, your makeup, your socks, your gloves, your backpack, but you can't change your main outfit. And that's something that I've really enjoyed in past Pokemon games since, I think it was X and Y, was that I could spend the money that I won, and I could, you know, buy new outfits, and I could, you know, doll myself up and look really cute in game. And that's something I missed in this. Don't get me wrong, I liked still being able to have a little bit of that, but it would have been nicer if I could have just like edited my outfit entirely. And I get it was because you're in your school uniform, and in Japan, if you're going out to do things, bar on your one day off, you have to wear your school uniform because you're still representing your school and all of that stuff. But it didn't hit for me. Having gone to school in Spain where there's no school uniforms, or where I went to school certainly, it was all wear your own clothes, there was no school uniforms. I was like, okay, you could still go to school and you could maybe still have like a badge or something that you have to pin onto your outfit to show that you're going to this school to kind of blend the cultures. But I didn't like having to just be in like the shirt and the trousers. Now you can change it depending on the season. There's a spring outfit, there's a summer outfit, there's a winter outfit and an autumn outfit. I think I'll put them all up across here in editing, that you could wear, and that would change a little bit, but again, it wasn't oh, this is a really cute skirt, I can wear this with some really nice knee-high socks, and these boots are really nice. Or, you know, oh, nice trousers and a nice jacket kind of thing. Which kind of bummed me out a little bit. I did also... Another thing that they brought back into it is that you can have your Pokemon out of its ball and it will be following you around and walking with you. And there's new ways of doing evolution. And one of them, like I said, is the walking out of the ball. So one of them, Pormai, it's got to walk with you for like 1,000 steps before it will evolve. And then like once it's walked 1,000 steps, once you battle with it and it levels up, or you just give it a candy and it levels up, it will evolve. I think there's a few others that do that as well. So I haven't finished the Pokédex yet, as you can tell. But that was a nice mechanic that got brought back in, because you used to be able to walk with your Pokemon in parks in like Diamond and Pearl, and it would help you evolve your Pokemon. So yeah, that was nice to see come back in. It was like they kept the camping mechanic from Sword and Shield, which again I really enjoyed them keeping that in. But this time around you don't make curry, you make sandwiches, and I was like, could it have been paella? I'd have loved to have made paella, because that's a very traditional Spanish dish. But no, it was sandwiches, and you know, you make your sandwiches and you share it. And that was one thing that for me that was so different, was just a segue, for this game, was you actually get the legendary Pokemon first. And he can't really battle. He saves you. You meet him. He ends up joining your team, but you can't battle with him because he currently isn't able to battle. And one of as you go through the routes, you level him up and you regain his power. But you still, the only time you get to battle with him is again against the big bad boss. And I think now in the post game I can battle with him, but I'm so used to not battling with him that it's just kind of pointless, and I just use him to keep going vroom vroom on. But that was fun actually. I did enjoy being able to vroom vroom around on like the Pokemon instead of having to, you know, go through all the turmoil of getting a bike. Now, one of the things that everyone was complaining about with Pokemon Scarlet and Violet was the fact that it was so glitchy. And it had to be patched on release, and like the game so basically I put in the game and I had to like update it with like a gigabyte or something of downloads to patch problems in the game, and they've been doing that slowly. So I think they could have maybe waited. Personally, I wouldn't have mind waiting another year for them to have updated the game, got it really well worked out with the bugs so that there wasn't that many, and then released it, but they didn't, so I can't complain. I enjoyed the game. The thing is, every so often you'll get a new patch that comes out, so that it'll be like, oh, you need to update this. You'll turn it on, hit play, and it'll be like, oh, you need to update. So one of the ones I noticed was just after Christmas when I started playing it. The world was very, very bare, and in my game anyway. As I'd be walking around, there'd only be like one Pokemon every 10 minutes pop up, and I'd be like, oh, what? This is what? Okay. And then an update happened, and suddenly it was, you know, overpopulated with Pokemon, which I preferred. So they are working on the game. It is still buggy in places. You'll sometimes still fall through the floor, or when you're like trying to catch a Pokemon, the bottom of it will just kind of, if you're on like a mountain, suddenly it's sky at the bottom with the mountain. You know, but all games have bugs, and it doesn't really hinder the gameplay that much. I mean, it's crashed a few times on me. Like, I'll have been playing and then suddenly it'll just crash, and then it'll be like, oh, you need an update like 2 days later, and I'm like, fine. It auto-saves a lot, so every time you catch a Pokemon, it auto-saves, which means when it does crash, you don't actually lose a lot of gameplay, which kudos to them for putting that in. That was a really good new install, because there's nothing worse than playing through your Pokemon game, forgetting that you haven't saved in ages, and then something going wrong or your battery dying, and it's like, ah no, I just lost 4 hours of gameplay, which I did. I did that in Xenoblade 2, and I was killing myself. So much gameplay I had to redo. But no, overall, I would have to say that I had a whale of a time playing Violet. It's been so much fun, and I'm replaying it again now on Twitch with you guys because it was so much fun. I haven't enjoyed, like I said, I haven't enjoyed a Pokemon game this much in a very long time. I've been kind of playing it out of, obligation of like, oh, I like Pokemon, but I haven't really enjoyed anything that I've played. Like, there was bits of them that were like, yeah, alright, this is cool, but the majority of it, I just kind of came out of it going, this is mediocre. Whereas this one, I was like, oh my god, I bow to you, Pokemon. This was so good. And they finally listened to a lot of our complaints and, like, implemented new systems and stuff that makes the game fresher and more fun and everything like that. So yeah, comment down below what you enjoyed about Scarlet and Violet if you've played them. If you haven't, tell me why you don't want to play them or your apprehensions, and let's chat about it. But other than that, my kittens, much love. I hope you take very good care of yourselves. Remember, eat something, drink something, and don't forget your medication if you're on any, and I will see you in the next video. Ciao!